Good.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
All righty, so everybody's doing okay today? All right, did everybody get the agenda? Okay, so we'll start with just the welcoming and standing items. So if you've had a chance to review the agenda, you know kind of what's on our, how we'll be spending our time together over the next hour or so. We're also in the need of some folks willing to help us with some roles during the meeting. So specifically timekeeper. Is there anybody who's willing to monitor the clock for us?
I can do that, Joey. This is Donna.
Thanks, Donna. We've got Jessica for recorder. Anybody open to chat box monitor?
I can do that, Joey. It's Julie.
Thanks, Julie. And then Jamie is already assisting with waiting room. Yes, good. All right. Anything else as far as agenda? I mean, we've got a lot of stuff to get through again today, but anything additional?
Joey, I wanted to mention, I realized a mistake after the agenda had already gone out. Life Course Nexus staff had actually asked to be at the end of the agenda. So we'll go ahead and get started with number 3, and then they'll kind of come in after number 8 before we do our kind of wrap up. So perfect. They'll be joining closer to like 3:30-ish.
All right. Anything else? If not, then Julie, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so some updates on our actions. There was some discussion or question during the last meeting about our kids turning 21 process. Joey gave a brief explanation, but we have added kind of a document outlining how that works to our provider portal. So you can go and check that out. Essentially, we use our last 3 years growth to project our budget. And so because we've changed our method internally a little bit, there's really not a need for us to be reaching out to do that survey in the way that we had in the past. But there is more information in that document on the provider portal. This isn't listed specifically, but we have moved some resources to the provider portal, several of which were previously on our provider resources, just like on the general DDD website. The ones that are more specific to providers that are more procedurally related, meeting minutes, forms, things like policy memos, those are now on the provider portal. So you do need that password, which is capital DD, and then provider with a capital P, followed by number 1. And you have to click in the CAPTCHA to prove that you're not a robot. And then you should be able to access all of that. Joey will talk a little bit more in more detail in a minute about the Htbs settings timelines work group. We have established a schedule for the CSP and case management roles and responsibilities document review work group. So that work is scheduled to start on March 31st. And we essentially had to, there's a lot in that document. So what we're doing is we're breaking it down to review 1 to 2 sections, depending on how lengthy they are per meeting. And so that work is going to take us into early August, at which point we will bring the revisions and recommendations to this larger group, finalize it, and then I guess enforce those changes. Let's see. I think that is all I had for follow-up from our last meeting. So I will turn it back over to Joey to give some updates.
Okay, so real quickly, I'm going to start with some DD staff updates. So as some of you know, we've made some changes to agency assignments to better meet our goals of balancing workload. You know, we have a small but mighty team, and so we're always looking to focus on continuous improvement. So I ask that you give those changes a chance. And, you know, we have a lot of expertise across the division. And so I would just ask, please give that a chance. And then if there's an issue, certainly give Julie or myself a call, and we will continue to improve on that as needed. So I wanted to just take a quick moment. I think those updates went out in the last couple of weeks. So if you were impacted, you know what that change was for you at this point. Secondly, we've welcomed a new team member since we last met. So Jessica Solberg, where is Jessica? Can you wave, Jessica?
Hello.
There you go. Some of you may know Jessica. She comes to the division with expertise in both the CSP and the case management world. Her focus is really going to be on intake, and her work's going to help us reach our goal of a more efficient and clear intake process for DD. So if you haven't worked with Jessica before, I just wanted you to see her. I know we have a full agenda, so we're not going to do the whole round of introductions, but Jessica, again, is our new intake specialist, and that will be her focus in order for us to meet that goal. In addition, we've had an internal promotion since we last met, and Katie Kelly has moved into our new training manager position. Where's Katie? Katie, can you wave? There you are. Thank you. So she remains focused on her current responsibilities with her formal transition of those duties coming once her replacement is hired. So if you're currently working closely with Katie in her current capacity, that's not going to change for the time being. Katie moving into this role really offers us the opportunity to make some strides in our commitment for consistency and professionalism. So she will be leading some internal training efforts, as well as coordinating ongoing external learning opportunities for the system. So again, Katie's formally moved into that role, but she is doing dual responsibilities right now until her replacement is hired. So again, if you're currently working with Katie, that does not change at this point. And as soon as we have more information, we will absolutely pass that along with any changes that might create. So any questions on staff updates? Okay, hearing none, I will move on to my next update, which is Continuum of Care. So with legislative session wrapping up towards the end of last week, we know that we have secured appropriations to move forward with the development of the regional centers. So our most immediate next step is going to be the release of the RFP, which we are tentatively planning for early next week. So that'll be released to the public, and the RFP notice will also go directly to any agency who responded to the RFI. Any questions on that update? You guys are so quiet today. This is not like this group.
Joey, I got a question.
Hi, Dan.
So with that Continuum of Care, I know that I had conversations with, I think it was you and maybe Secretary Reichenbach, you know, that you guys are taking on a lot of those goals that were listed in that plan. Yes. And so I don't know if you're at the point of being able to share any information with that, or if you have any idea of how that's going to plan out, or what. Anyway, do you have
Dan, are you referring to? I know that I've talked about how we've created an action plan based off of the Align report, and we've started action on like 13 of those 18 recommendations. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, right. That,
yep.
And is that more of just taking action on the whole entire plan itself and coming up with a plan for a plan? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Well, kind of, maybe. So okay. we broke down each of those recommendations and then identified whether we already had action happening on those
Okay.
recommendations or not. So we can definitely add that and talk more in depth next time if that works. If the group wants to have that as a topic, we can certainly do that.
I think that would be great. You know,
Okay.
we just want to make sure that, you know, we're offering our help too with all those
Absolutely.
things. You know, if you need, you know, help or input or whatever that might be or what that might look like. So yeah, I think that'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions on that particular update? Okay, looks like the next one is the rate methodology work group. So again, as you know, that work really was paused when the pandemic hit. And at that point of the pause, there was some work going on with an RFP in order to identify an agency that could assist us with that work. So at this point, internally, we have resumed the review of the RFP process and hope to have those next steps completed by, I would say, the end of the month. So once that occurs, the rate work group will resume. So we will be kicking off the steps of that work, I would say, next month. And I know, Dan, we've kind of had some email back and forth about that. So we'll work around the dates that you have passed along. But that's the plan. We want to ensure that we kind of have our things aligned internally, and then we'll resume that work in April. So any questions on rate methodology work group?
So just to make sure that I heard all that. So you guys have an RFP out for like a consultant again?
So the RFP was released. My understanding was before my time, early 2020, and then that whole process was paused. So due to the pandemic. So we've been working to reevaluate and continue that work. So we've unpaused it, if you will, in order to get moving with that work again.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none, I will move into my final update. Topic is Htbs settings work group. So I know the last time we talked a little bit about what this is going to look like. We wanted to pull together a work group. So I've heard from a few of you, and we've got a small-ish work group identified. So I would ask again today that if you are interested in partnering with that work, to please let us know. We hope to get this work kicked off by the middle of next month. So as you're factoring all your work group activities, if you're interested in participating, this one will be kicking off also next month. And again, if you want to participate but haven't notified us yet, please do so. Right now, we probably have around 7 to 10 people identified with a mix of providers and DD staff. And our focus of that work is going to be taking the statewide transition plan, if you remember from last time, and reviewing each of those deliverables in that plan. Questions on that?
Joey, this is Brian Mulder. I don't have a question on those work groups, but since we're on the work group topic, any update on when we're going to start with the crisis diversion conversation?
Are you referring to the one that Jennifer Larson is leading? Yep. I do not know exactly what her timeline is for that.
Okay, so we'll hear directly from her.
Yes, so Jennifer Larson is coordinating that effort, but I can certainly see what I can find out, Brian, and if I have an update, I can certainly let you know.
Okay.
Are you one who had responded that you were interested?
Yeah, I think Dan sent in the group, and I see Julie shaking her head.
Okay.
But yeah, I just know, obviously, again, with legislative session, everything kind of hits pause, but
right.
Just curious. Okay.
Yep. So she's the lead for that, and I know it's on her the top of her list. So I would imagine that's in the works. I just don't necessarily know all those details at this point.
Right. Okay, this is Dan. I can definitely try and reconnect with Jennifer too, and just at least do some follow up with her, and we can go from there.
Sounds good. Other comments or thoughts on any other updates?
tack on to that and ask about the shared living work group?
Is that Kristen? Yes.
Yeah.
So again, we are hoping that that will be kicking off next month. So when you're factoring in your volunteerism for all of the various work groups, keep that in mind. And I know we've got that, that work group identified. So my goal, Kristen, is to get that initial meeting invite out by the end of next week. So be watching for that. That is my goal.
Joey, is that going to be a work group, or is that just going to be made up of everybody that's providing shared living right now?
Right now it's a work group of people who are providing shared living.
Okay, because we used to have that community of practice too.
Yeah, but right now, I know there's been some conversation about bringing back that community of practice, and I think that'll be a discussion that we have with that work group.
Who has the list of who's all on every work group?
Julie and I.
Yeah, yes, we're managing that. I don't know that we have one that says like side by side, here's all of the different work groups, but we have them, we have contact lists and are keeping an eye on that.
I would say
share that with Dan.
Yep, we can talk about that tomorrow, Dan, if you want.
Sure, that sounds good.
Perfect. Other thoughts? All right, hearing none, I will pass it over to Katie.
Hello, everyone. So a couple of things to watch out for that are coming up. We will be sending out a short TheraP survey. Just kind of want input on how things are going. I am also working with 3 other DD staff. So Barb Hemmelman, Julie Johnson-Dresbach, and Jenny Krieger and myself are working with a couple of CSPs and case management agencies on making revisions to the significant change requests. We are very, very close. So if any of you are on right now, don't forget we have a meeting coming up on the 29th. And that'll be our last meeting before training comes out. So be on the lookout for training opportunity for the significant change request. Probably closer to May, end of April, beginning of May. And that training will be a recorded training, and then everybody will have the opportunity to view it, and then we will do a live Q&A session afterwards. Maybe hour and a half. That way we're not taking up too much of everybody's time in a live webinar. We are also working on the extraordinary needs funding. We will shortly be sending out requests for feedback regarding visions and how we would like, or how you guys would like to see that training being provided to the updates of the extraordinary needs funding. So SELN, the statewide employment leadership network, is also offering another e-learning session for case managers and family support coordinators. That will go from March 29th through May 7th. If you are interested in that and you have time, if you're not already doing the Life Course Nexus, please reach out to Barb Hemmelman no later than the 24th. So that's next Wednesday, so that she can get that list of individuals to SELN so that they can get you guys set up and going. And again, that's from March 29th through May 7th. Any questions? Great. Julie, I think you are up next.
I think Carrie's gonna kick off this conversation. I was waiting for her to unmute. Felt like we were playing chicken there for a second. Carrie, we can't hear you. I can see you talking, but.
How about now?
Oh, yep, there we go.
Yay! Just had to go in and change a little something on my microphone. I don't have a super comprehensive update, but what we wanted to let you guys know is that we have initiated conversation with CQL regarding the POM and PFW concerns that you guys have brought to us. Met with Kate Dunbar, I believe it was on the 8th of March or so. And what Julie and I did with Kate and Angela was also there, is just really look at what the POM is, what it's gathering, what it's, you know, intended to gather, what we want to get out of that, how we're going to use that. And then did that kind of as well with the PFW. And so we didn't get super comprehensive, but we opened the door for those, you know, conversations to start to occur. And I think, Julie, did you want to kind of follow up with maybe some additional questions? So we're going to continue to, you know, work through and see what it is that what we need to do to potentially make some changes here. Julie's gonna ask a few questions just to get a better idea of where we should go with this, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. So like Carrie said, we had some dialogue recently with CQL, and I think what Carrie and I realized during and after that conversation is that we really needed probably a little bit more clarity around what you all are looking for or hoping for. The topic of a crosswalk was mentioned, I think it was 2 meetings ago. And, you know, we can create a crosswalk that compares the personal outcome measure questions, or, you know, the personal outcome measures with the personal focus worksheet, which POM connects to which personal focus worksheet question. That's easy enough to do, but wanted to just dig a little deeper and figure out what kind of will best meet your guys' needs. So we're not investing in creating a document that really doesn't produce the results you're looking for or get you the information you're hoping for. So, you know, you are all aware that through your CQL accreditation, there's an expectation from CQL that there is POMS data available for them to review. And that is true for case management providers as well as CSPs. What I think I heard, but it's been a couple months ago, and I don't know that it was captured in a lot of details in our notes, was that interviews aren't happening. How do they happen? So I want to make sure that we have the context we need, and just ask, I just kind of want to open up the floor and ask, are POMS interviews occurring so you can get the data you need for accreditation? That's like question 1 for me.
Okay, so Julie, I think I need to, this is Brian Mulder, DOA. This is fresh on our mind because we just went through a phone call review based off of our 4-year accreditation. And obviously POM interviews came up. I will tell you, there was the magic wand of COVID kind of waved over our accreditation call, basically saying, well, COVID happened. So, you know, great. And we're still alive. So things are going well with that call. But obviously this was a topic of conversation coming up. And so kind of when you asked the question, like, what do we want? I think for me as a provider, I'm kind of looking at the state saying, which one is it? And if we want to move to the personal focused worksheet, if I'm saying that right, you know, is there any way to convince CQL that's what we do in South Dakota and not do both? Because to me, it's just got to be one or the other. And I think that's what we're looking to the state to say, okay, this is the direction we're going. I mean, if it's POM and we have to bite the bullet, well, then we got to get back onto the POM stuff. I'm sure there's other agencies that are performing better than we are and making it happen. But, you know, one of the things that we had to work out is we have no, you know, certified POM interviewers. So that's a whole process. And in a year of COVID with no trainings, no travel, you know, the list goes on and on why we're further behind on that. But still the question was, well, which one is it going to be? One or the other kind of thing.
I'm just going to go right here with Brian Mulder on this and tell you all the things that he's saying I'm thinking. The other thing I'm going to say is we don't have anyone to do those personal outcome interviews anymore. And the expectation from CQL is that we'll do a certain percentage a year, or even that we'll do them all. Who's going to do them? So as that team comes together, we're already asking them to do the personal focus worksheet. Who's doing the personal outcome measures? So if we really can't be doing both of them, it's a duplication of work, really is what it is. And the other part of that is personal outcome measures is one thing. Then I'm going to wrap this all around to basic assurances. If I've just come off of policy implementation, and in 3 months, I'll go into CQL full 4-year accreditation. And I just got done with my basic assurance assessment, and I feel like I went through policy implementation again. We can crosswalk this. I think I sent somebody, Jay's it was, and Jay's responded really nice to me and said, I think this is something we can do, but it's a duplication of work. Everything I'm submitting for CQL is almost what I'm submitting to policy implementation. As a matter of fact, I'm using the policy implementation, the elements that you guys are using for SMART. When I drill into those, I'm using them on my basic assurances to say in my supporting document, I'm scoring 96% on my health and welfare in this area, which is backing me up on basic assurances. So somehow, and I've got enough stuff to do, but I am more than willing to work on this. So I'll let somebody else talk, but I'm going to just go back to that because I'm using what you guys are doing in SMART to back up my basic assurances in CQL.
A lot of agreement in the chat about this as well. And then also there's a question here or comment by Katie Munson that how the case managers and the CSPs can partner in completion of the POMs if needed.
Okay, that is all really good feedback in the chat box and from Brian and Pam. I would encourage any of you to, anyone else to speak up. I have a clarifying question for Pam specifically, and I'm sure it applies to others as well. But Pam, when you mentioned that there's no one to do the interviews, obviously workforce issues abound. So my question is it like having bodies to do the interviews? Or is it, Brian mentioned having certified interviewers. Is it having people who are qualified, or maybe it's both?
It's both. We've just certainly gotten away from doing qualified interviews, certified they were called at one time. But really, you're asking the team already to participate in the team process and help with the first personal focus worksheet and all of that stuff. And now if you're going to ask them to really do a really, really good personal outcome interview, we just don't simply have that. And it feels like you're just doing the interview over.
Just to clarify, Julie, on our part, that was something we brought up with CQL. I will tell you that our CQL accreditor backed off on saying somebody has to be certified for them to be legitimate. So
yeah. I was going to mention that too. Yep. In our conversation, you don't have to be certified to do the interview. It certainly helps with the validity of the data, but it's not a requirement.
Yep. And so to be fair, I agree with that. I echo, but I just go back to the same thing. To us, it's a duplication of work. Obviously, lack of bodies. We have less administrative help than what we used to, in the agency. So the whole idea of, just having people available to pump out these POM interviews and then now adding this personal focused, I just think it has to be one or the other.
So can I ask, and this might be a silly question, anybody who's already had the conversations with CQL, have you brought any of these concerns forward? And if so, what was their response in your conversation?
So again, I don't mean to dominate the time, but we just had this conversation last week with CQL, so it's real fresh. And our accreditor was going to go up the chain. And I honestly thought maybe this made the agenda because somebody contacted the state. So they said, I don't know. And I know some of my directors are listening, and we'll see if they're listening, if they jump on and tell the truth after I'm done speaking. But from what I understand, there was a conversation that happened recently, and we got a call back from our accreditor saying that we're not on the same page, that the state and CQL are not on the same page. And they said the personal focused worksheet would not satisfy the needs of POM. And I just said, there's Laura, she chatted. Yeah, they just told us that the PFW is not the same as the POM. So, but again, we're the ones paying for their service. I just wonder if the pressure could come and say, well, we need to have more conversation here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it's a matter because CQL has so much invested in their personal outcome measures, how they were designed, how the interviews are, intended to be conducted. From the time that this was brought up initially to the time that Carrie and I visited with CQL, the more I thought about it, the more concern I had about their willingness to accept just a personal focus worksheet to replace a POM interview, because they are a little bit different. They're adapted basically the POM to design the personal focus worksheet. So we open that dialogue. I'm hopeful that we'll figure out a way to get the data you need for accreditation and reduce and hopefully eliminate the duplication. We're not quite there yet, but we're going to continue to work on it. Are there any other? I see a few people have chimed in the chat box, and I appreciate that. I'm trying to kind of skim through. Yeah. So I think this topic will be continued. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt whoever was going to talk.
Julie, this is
Jennifer, you muted yourself.
Sorry about that. I think historically, we've also gotten, there's been feedback from different CQL reviewers there's been discrepancies in the percentage that they are expecting for providers to have of these POM interviews. I know we've been told 20-25%. When we've talked to other providers, they've been given other numbers. And of course, they're looking for this information to not only drive the team to develop plans for individuals, but also for agencies to be driving organizational change based on the data. And I don't know about anybody else, but I will just tell you for us that we really struggle in order to utilize this. Yep, we're doing it. We've got the data, but to really use it to drive organizational change has been very difficult. It seems more applicable on an individualized basis, at least from our perspective, than organizational changes. But
we've been doing them for a long time. And I think everyone probably would agree that we know the areas we need to work on. It's not rocket science, it's community and relationships. Isn't that where you all end up having to have areas of focus after you do a personal outcome measure? So it's, I mean, has its time come? Because we're not using them for individuals, because that's the personal focus worksheet. It's supposed to be for, you know, your percentage for your agency. But I mean, that's at least how ours come out. We need to improve in the area of relationships and community integration.
Okay, well, I see that Donna is doing a good job with timekeeping and telling us that it's time to move on. So if anyone has any additional comments, please email those to Carrie DeGriff. She is our CQL lead within the office. And so, you know, we'll just continue to visit with CQL and try to devise a plan so we can support you guys to get the data you need without duplication. So we'll continue to work on that and engage with you guys and provide updates along the way.
I have saved the chat as well, so we can go back and review the chat items later too.
Excellent, thanks, Julie. Okay, so our next agenda item is bumped down from the top of the agenda, our life course Nexus. So we have, I see Jenny Turner has joined. I didn't see Lisa. Is Lisa joining too? No, it's just Jenny. Okay, so Jenny Turner, who is with the Life Course Nexus out of the University of Missouri, Kansas City Institute for Human Development. Very long title, so Nexus is much easier to roll off the tongue. Has joined us, and we'll be talking a little bit about some of the work that we have planned with them. Yet another opportunity for participation and feedback and engagement from our stakeholders. So I'm gonna take 1 second here and pull up a few slides that we have prepared. So give me 1 second. Okay, can everyone see that? Yes, okay. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about some opportunities, again, to engage and provide feedback and be part of developing some training curriculum and some other items. But first I want to take a quick minute to talk about, hang on, can I get these to advance? Yeah, there we go. So why we're doing what we're doing, and then Jays is going to talk a little bit about specifically what we're doing. You can see here on the slide, we really recognized when we promulgated rule, it seems like so long ago, but it was at the end of 2019. Specifically, we made revisions to the ISP rule. We changed the component of each ISP needing to include at least one PCT tool to be a little broader as far as what the content of the ISP needs to include. And then we also added an administrative rule for case management training, staff orientation. So as we were drafting those rules, we certainly recognized a need to provide support for compliance with those, which led us to work with the Life Course Nexus. And really, we want to make sure that we're not just rolling out administrative rule changes and requirements without providing support for you all to build the skills that you need to be successful in that. So, and with that, we recognize that with the implementation of case management, and in the effort and the spirit of including everyone, just like we're doing with these stakeholder meetings, we want everyone to have access to the same information at the same time. And so, ensuring everyone has the same opportunities for learning and professional development, really, we're going to engage with case managers, with family support coordinators, as well as we were opening this to CSPs, and some of the specific things that we'll talk about first will probably be internal service coordinators at community support providers specifically. And then of course, again, consistent with what we're trying to accomplish with our stakeholder meetings and other work groups that we're establishing, we really want to enhance consistency in that communication across all stakeholder groups between our office, amongst all of you. So we're all on the same page and can move forward as a cohesive system. So I'll let Jays talk in a little bit more detail about what we're planning. And then Jenny's going to talk a little bit about the details involved with each of those efforts.
Great. Julie, can you move to the next slide? Thank you. Sorry,
I think what you need is right on the left side.
Well, I think we're,
no?
Oh, I thought we were covering 2 and 3.
Okay.
But maybe not. You can go back to the previous slide. And so, and I want to preface by saying that there's some construction going on at my house. And so if there's very loud noises in the background, I apologize. So Julie talked about the why. So then a little bit about what we're doing is we met often and a lot with UMKC or the Life Course Nexus to discuss how do we accomplish our goals and support our providers along the way, but also make this a sustainable effort. And so through those very in-depth conversations, we identified really 4 main focus areas that we wanted to address through this work. And so the first being that foundational training curriculum for support coordinators in case management. And why are we doing that? To connect that is because we promulgated those administrative rules and outlined very specific training requirements for those 2 roles within our system. And so these kind of self-paced modules that we're going to develop is a way to ensure that those training requirements are met and provide you all with the support to get there, right? We didn't just want to roll out rules and then say, good luck. And so that is the kind of first focus area that there'll be opportunity with. The next is the ISP Tools and Guidance. As Julie mentioned, we did make rule changes to the ISP role in both Choices and Family Support 360 to better encompass charting the life course vision and philosophy. And so we, of course, might need to make adjustments to the ISP to ensure that we're encompassing all of those areas that we included in administrative role. We definitely will on the family support side. On the Choices side, it might just be some smaller tweaks and guidance to ensure compliance with administrative rule. So that is a perspective both from the case manager, service coordinator, provider viewpoint of what needs to be in ISP, as well as a vision of, from a state compliance perspective, what are we looking at when we're reviewing ISPs to ensure compliance with the administrative rule. So there'll be an opportunity that Jenny will talk more about in development of those pieces. We also then identified a focus area on resources and materials for communication engagement. So stakeholder communication and engagement, not just to our provider network and systems. This call that we're doing is one way that we're accomplishing that. And we plan to continue doing that, as well as the opportunity for broader stakeholder engagement. So cross systems, including both family support and Choices. We tend to keep those things siloed, but we want to talk about how can we communicate messages in conjunction with each other, as well as communication and engagement to families and participants who are receiving the services. And then lastly, we talk about resources for program specialists. And again, this is just training and support for our staff to ensure that we can provide the technical assistance and support to you all as providers and what is needed for that program specialist role. So that's the what. I'm going to pass it off to Jenny, and she is going to talk about the how.
Guys, hi everybody. Thanks so much for letting me join. Just wanted to kind of introduce a couple of opportunities, and I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into what Jay's just talked about so that you know kind of what is being developed and what we're asking for feedback, participation, input, influence, all of those different things regarding. So like Jay said, we are, the Life Course Nexus has developed a foundational curriculum for support coordinators and case managers. It integrates both PCT and the Charting the Life Course framework. So really thinking about how do we support case managers and support coordinators in their various roles, not just person-centered planning, but really thinking about, someone earlier on the call, mentioned supporting people to build relationships. And so what is the role of the case manager in that? What does that look like? And so this curriculum is, it is self-paced. They're online modules. There's 6 of them. And it really is around, again, those core competencies of person-centered coordination, support coordination, case management, whatever that looks like. So we'll talk a little bit more about, specifically what this team will be doing, but we're looking for a team of folks to kind of pilot this curriculum and then help identify what's the best way to launch this across the state, thinking about how do we really support case managers and support coordinators and organizations to access this training to make it as meaningful as possible. Around the Isp Tools and Guidance, Jay's really mentioned, how are we integrating the promulgated rule and requirements into our plans? How are we making sure that it's reflected in the SMART system? How are we really tying everything together? And again, I just caught the tail end of an earlier conversation, but really making sure that everything that we're doing, the dots are connected is a really big piece of this. And so we are going to be developing Isp Tools and Guidance, as well as working with the various IT providers to think about how do we integrate this into the system so that it's not one more thing, it's not different, but it really can be as streamlined and seamless as possible. So we'll be doing that in a collaborative, iterative process. And I'll talk about how that's going to look in just a minute. And then like Jay said, we really have 2 additional key things around enhancing that communication and engagement for all stakeholder groups, making sure everybody hears the same message at the same time. So there will be opportunities, even if you don't want to be in the pilot group or you don't want to be on the development team, you'll still be in the loop around what's going on. And we're going to do that through some concentrated efforts to pull everybody together to share information. As well as making sure that program specialists do have the resources that they need in order to provide that technical assistance. So why in the world is the Nexus doing this? If you want to jump to the next slide, Julie, it's not necessarily that that there is not great expertise and opportunity in South Dakota, but we also know that everybody has a lot of things on their plate. And so, the Life Course Nexus, what we really want to do and support is the exchange of information, collaboration, and building innovative, tools and resources that help folks that are doing the good work without taking more time or effort than you have to give, because your plates are full. You have a lot of things to do. And so it's not that we want to take over, because we need you and your input and your perspective and your support, but we want to do the heavy lifting and allow you to continue to focus where your focus is needed on the individuals and the people that you're supporting in your day-to-day work. And so again, we have the benefit of the Nexus of being connected to 22 different states through the Community of Practice for Supporting Families and several additional states through the National Center for Advancing Person-Centered Practices and Systems. So as an added sort of benefit or bonus of having the Nexus involved is we've got that state, the national, it's a late in the day. We have the national perspective across the country of what are the competencies around support coordination and case management, and what are the tools and the guidance around how to really develop ISP templates and processes and review and outcomes and monitoring and all of those things that are person-centered. And so we're bringing as well that experience and that perspective and the opportunity to share some of those things that we're learning as we work with different states across the country. So a little bit about what we are needing from you. We need your input. We need your influence. We need you to inform this process. And there's 3 key opportunities we're going to zero in on right now. There may be more. There likely will be more in the future, but starting off right now, let's talk a little bit about the support coordination, case management, foundational training pilot group. All of these names are up for changing because that is a lot of words. So this group is going to really be focused on, if you want to jump to the next slide for me, Julie, this group is really going to be focusing on testing and providing feedback to the Nexus regarding the foundational curriculum. as well as identifying here are key areas or key things that need to be customized to South Dakota's context. So not only what are the kind of foundational things that we want to keep from this series, but what are the customized pieces that we also want to have as a supplement? You know, is there an additional 5-minute video on a particular procedure, or, you know, really what is the flavor? How does this look and feel, and how does this make sense in South Dakota? We also are hoping that this team will help us develop a statewide launch or rollout plan so that we can make the training available to all of the learners. And that will include talking about what are kind of the internal organizational capacity, what are those things that are needed to support the ongoing professional development using this curriculum. So we basically have a curriculum. We want to talk about how can we help you to use this curriculum as a part of your resources and training that the state is making available to you. This group is going to be limited to 20 folks, just to be totally candid. So we might have more interest than we have slots, but we wanted to have a really functioning work group and make sure that we were able to have interactive conversations and discussion around this. The time commitment, kind of what we're asking you for, is 7 total 1.5-hour long meetings over the space of about 4.5 months, as well as watching and participating in about 6 self-paced modules. So we'll start with a kickoff meeting on April 6th, not too far away, where we'll really talk about the project, introduce, you know, what we're going to be doing, the work plan, all of those different things. And then you will get access to our learning management system platform, where you will watch the videos and complete the activities and really walk through as though you were a learner in this system who is looking for that certificate. And then for each module, we'll have a collaborative call where you'll share your feedback, provide recommendations, and we'll do some brainstorming about what's next. And so you see the dates of those calls on your screen there. And I believe Julie already sent out a handout with that reflected as well. So that is one opportunity. The second opportunity, if you are really passionate about developing tools and guidance and really want to provide input and feedback as we review and refine the existing resources and create a toolkit for ISP development, we would love to have you as a part of this group. Again, I'm all about being candid. This group is a little bit of a bigger lift, not most likely, it will be a bigger lift because there will be work in between meetings. And so it's going to be a kind of a rhythm of doing some work on your own, you know, sending some feedback, sending some emails, maybe drafting up some things if that's what you're good at, to prepare for monthly meetings, monthly collaborative meetings to review and finalize and put things in place. So we're planning on, again, monthly meetings. That'll be 1 hour to 1.5 hours facilitated by one of our Nexus team members. And then in between those meetings, we're going to be asking the development team group to do some work on their own to draft some things, revise some things. You know, there'll probably be a flurry of emails or maybe a SharePoint type site where we can comment on things and work collaboratively together. We don't have dates set out for those meetings yet. They will start in May, and there will be one in May and June. And then we're also asking for development team members who do facilitate planning to pilot this within their organization. So if we, you know, when we develop a template, for example, can you have 4 or 5 case managers or 4 or 5 support coordinators try it out and let us know how it goes over the course of that month. So just know that that is kind of in the mix as well. Similarly, we'll develop some review rubrics and we want to pilot that as well this fall to really have a chance to test it out and make sure that we're getting it right. And that will prepare us then, like I said, for that consultation in December. We will take these things back, this toolkit back to the IT companies and talk with them about how do we fold this in? How do we make this as seamless as possible in Therap, in Focus, and in Smart? So that is the second opportunity. And then the third opportunity, if you are like, those all sound great and I want to be kept in the loop about what all of those things are going on, and I may have some opinions and feedback at a higher level, but I can't commit to that level of time commitment, you have the opportunity to continue to attend and participate in stakeholder meetings. And so we'll have one on April 21st. I believe it's this same time, 3 to 4:30, where we'll meet and get together and review kind of the progress. Here's where we're at. Here's what's going on. We are planning on combining several stakeholder meetings into one meeting quarterly. So not asking you to come to another meeting, but pulling everybody together so that self-advocates, families, support coordinators, case managers, CSPs, you know, everybody's kind of hearing the same thing, and we'll structure those so that we're using breakout rooms and different things to make sure that we're getting robust feedback from everyone who really is involved and needs to have an opinion about the different things that we're working on. So just a heads up that we'll start that on April 21st, and then we will follow at that same rhythm. We'll have a quarterly stakeholder meeting in replacement of, so to speak, this meeting in July, October, and December. We're still working out the details of what that will look like, because there are some things that you as CSPs might want to talk about on your own. There are some things that case managers might need to talk about that's very weedy for case managers. And if that's the case, then we'll talk about how to structure that to make sure we're not asking you for extra time or extra meetings during those months. So those are the 3 opportunities. I'm going to pause for a second to ask, are there questions about those 3 things? I'm sure how do we sign up is the question, one of the questions, and we'll get to that in a minute. But before we get to that question, any questions about what we're asking for, what we need, who should participate? You can drop them in the chat or unmute and shout them out to me.
I see that there was a question in the chat. Have you considered having parents on family support go through the foundational pilot? I would think their feedback about what the training looks like for their first service coordinators would be valuable. Excited to see this come to a plan. Yeah. You know, that wasn't something that we discussed, but I don't think, you know, I don't see any issue with that. So we'll probably have to kind of circle up and figure out how that would look, or how we would engage and explain all the things that Jenny just outlined to make sure that they know what they're signing up for. But yeah, I think that's a good recommendation. Any other thoughts or questions? I know we're getting very close to our wrap-up time.
Jenny, can you provide us, or can we see this, you know, the written explanations of these 3? Can we access that? Because there's no one from our family support team on this call today. So I was going to approach them and ask them, but I kind of scribbled some notes, but I think your PowerPoint is better. Yes.
We're going to have the same conversation tomorrow with the coordinators.
Oh, good.
During our monthly call.
Thank you, Jason. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay.
Yes.
I bet Christy will want to be involved. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I do believe too, Julie had sent out a PDF document that has this all spelled out too. So hopefully that'll, because I know it's a lot to try to scribble down when I'm talking 90 to nothing. Because I know at 4 o'clock you are done talking on Zoom, or maybe you're not, but you're done with this talking on Zoom, which I totally get. So with that in mind, Julie, if you want to go to the next slide about how to sign up. Again, just being candid, we want everyone's input and feedback, but we don't have the capability to facilitate conversations with huge, massive groups of people. So we are going to use a Qualtrics survey and ask you to sign up or share that with anyone who might want to sign up through that survey. It's a pretty quick turnaround. We're asking for that back by next week, by next Thursday. So it gives folks about a week to consider this, think about if they want to do it, and then go in and sign up. It's pretty easy. It's just kind of, who are you? Where do you work? What do you do? Do you really understand what you're signing up for? And does your supervisor agree to what you're signing up for? Because this is going to take place during work hours. And so we just want to make sure that everybody's on board with that. And then we will select team members for all of those, for the 2 opportunities. You don't have to sign up for the stakeholder work group. That's open. You can come, or the stakeholder discussions, those are open and you can come to those. But for the development team and the pilot team, we will select those team members by April 2nd to make sure that we have folks ready to go. So
Jenny, I was going to mention that, so we're hoping to get that email drafted. It will also have the handout that was attached with the agenda for today. And there'll be a link, a SurveyMonkey link included in that. So like Jenny said, we're hoping to get the responses back by the 25th and have the membership sorted out by the 2nd. So everyone is ready to go, especially for that group that kicks off on the 6th. So
I did find the handouts. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Any other questions for me about the groups and what we're trying to do and who should participate? All right. Well, thanks everybody. Good to see so many of you and some familiar names and faces, and we look forward to working together.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, so knowing that we are at the end of our time, let's do a really quick wrap up. I believe Jamie has been keeping track of any action items that were identified and items for our next agenda.
Yes, so I have to let Julie or Joey know about participation in the HCBS settings work group. The crisis diversion work group timeline, I wasn't sure if Joey or Dan was going to follow up with Jennifer on that. So I have that as this thing that has to be done before our next stakeholder meeting. Would like the work group participant list, since there's a lot of them right now, shared with Dan. So that list will be shared with him. And then I added the Qualtrics survey. So that would indicate whether you want to be on the development team or the pilot team, and that must be done by March 25th. I did have on for our next agenda, the review the action steps related to the Align report. And then also I added the POMs and the personal focus worksheet. I wasn't sure if you guys were going to be working on that on the next agenda, but since it's ongoing, I have it on there. So if there's any other agenda items that people think needs to happen on our next stakeholder meeting, please let me know now or put it in the chat box and I'll include that.
Okay, so I do want to point out that the April meeting is when we had planned to kick off those larger cross-section stakeholder meetings. So our agenda may look a little bit different. And truthfully, we're still kind of trying to figure out how do we continue these conversations and get you the information and follow-up you need, but ensure that those broader stakeholder meetings, we're talking about things that apply in general to all the people participating in those. So we're still sorting that out. So some of these items may end up on the May agenda, but we'll keep you guys posted. And if there's anything we can send an update via email or anything like that, we'll try to keep that information moving so it doesn't stall out. Okay, anything else?
All right, hearing none, and we know we took a few extra minutes of your time today. So thank you, everybody. Bye.